Hi, this is Katie again. One of the other questions I get asked a lot is just about my routine and what we do to keep our hair healthy. So I'm going to show you today that this style has been in for around 4 or 5 weeks, and I usually leave her cornrows in that long. And then when I go to take them out, I take out the beads and things. I'm about halfway done doing that. But after I take out all the beads, I use the end of my rat tail comb, and I actually used to do this wet, but now I found that it works better if I do it dry. I use the end of the comb to start separating the bottom of the braid or twist or whatever it is. And I used to do it wet because I thought that it would keep it from the hair damaging and breaking. I thought the hair would be more slippery and it would slide out easier and not cause damage. But then I decided that by getting it wet, it just kind of made the hairs tangle together more. While the hair is in braids like this, it's kind of straightened and flattened out into like a semi-straight state and not so curly as it is when it gets wet. So by leaving it dry, when I take these out, the hairs separate from each other more easily than if I spray it and get it wet. Then they all kind of curl up and want to cling to each other. So I actually work from the underside of the braid, and that would kind of depend on if you braid underhand or overhand, but I work from the underside of the braid, and I use the end of my comb to just undo it. And once I get to a point where it's not so tangled up anymore, the small ends, once I get to the bulk of the braid, then I'm able to kind of just use my hands to reverse braid and unbraid it. Sometimes it gets a little tangled and I need to get in there with my comb again. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take out 3 or 4 braids, a section of hair. I'm going to undo the braids, and I will come back and show you what I do after I have taken out a section of braids out. Okay, so now I've taken out like 4 of the braids here, so I have a decent section of hair. And don't be afraid about hair that comes out when you do that. We all shed hair every day, and when the hair is in cornrows, the hair that she sheds just gets kind of trapped in there, so it's going to come out when you take the braids out. And you can see that around the bottom here, where some of the braids at the base of the braids gets a little bit of lint, gets a little bit of buildup in it, and that's typical. That's going to happen. So now I'm just going to take my spray. This is my water mixed with the Talia Wajid's Protective Mist Beautifier, and I get it really very wet. Just really run it through all of her hair. And then I'm going to take a wider tooth comb, and starting at the usually I like to keep a towel around here because we get oil kind of sprayed all over. But so starting at the tips of the hair, I'll start combing it out and work my way up to her scalp. It's combing through very nicely today. Sometimes we get a little more snags than this, but she's had a trim recently, so the ends are very healthy. I also trim her hair myself. It's pretty easy to do. Good to do every once in a while so that you have fresh, healthy ends. Here where there was a little more buildup at the base of the braids, this takes a little bit more patience. Kind of pick through really gently. You definitely want the hair to be nice and wet when you do that, or you're going to cause a lot of breakage. Just kind of keep at it gently until the comb starts to slide through. And then, like I said, when you're done combing that out, you're going to have hair in your comb. It's just the natural shedding. So I would do this a little bit longer until my comb was really running through, but you don't necessarily want to watch all that. So I would comb that through really well so my comb was sliding through, and then I would just take the section and split it into 2 or 3 and put a large twister braid in, just very loosely, not even necessarily all the way down to the ends, but just to kind of hold this hair off to the side. And then I'd go on to the next section and the next, and just leave the hair in some big twists and braids as I'm taking the rest out. And it's actually, I think, kind of healthy for her hair to do that too, because I'm saturating it in the oil and then I'm twisting it up and letting it sit while I take the others out, so it's really moisturizing her hair. Okay, so now I have finished taking the cornrows out of, all of the cornrows out of her hair, and we've got about, I don't know, maybe 8 or so big twists. So her entire head has been detangled, and I've combed all of the lint and the buildup out. And so then after I do that, I'll go back through and quickly and easily take all of these big twists out. And then her hair will be all ready for a washing. And you can see it's all very random the way that they're sectioned here. It doesn't matter what it looks like, it's just to temporarily hold her hair out of the way, the parts that I have finished. And so now that it is all out and detangled, we will go and wash. Okay, so now her hair has been washed with conditioner, and I haven't put anything else on it. And the first thing I usually do is part it into 4 large sections. The majority of hairstyles I do on her use a part that goes from her forehead to her neck and from one ear to the other ear, which gives me 4 quarters of her head. And even if I don't plan on using those parts, it's usually still a good place to start. Okay, so one thing that I've found that I think is important for trying to help keep her hair from getting damaged from too much pulling and straining in one direction is I like to change up her parts all of the time. If one style I have done is cornrows that go from front to back, then the next time I will try to make the cornrow, if I'm going to do cornrows, I'll have them go sideways, or I'll do a bunch of box braids or box twists instead of doing cornrows. So every time I put in a new style, I try to vary it a little bit so that the parts are in different places, and so it's not pulling all in one way month after month. And so even with her parts that go down the middle and go from ear to ear, I try to at least slightly change where the part is so that it doesn't pull the same hairs in the same direction all the time. Okay, so now I put my 4 parts in, and I just use my clips to clip each of the sections out of the way. And at this point is when I would go back through, and now that I have this new comb out, I'm using this, and I will take one section at a time. I will load it up with the comb out, and then I will comb it through. And then at that point I'd either put in a braid or a twist or a couple of braids and twists, and I might do that to each section and then leave it that way for maybe a day or up to a week and let it just kind of hang out in that style for a little while before I go and put in a more detailed style like cornrows.